Hello! I was asked to give a quick tour of my yard so that you can see my garden, and I'll show you a few of our other plants along the way. Just to give you a little bit of history, we moved into this house about 6 years ago, and when we moved in, it was pretty much a dirt lot with a house and a swimming pool and a dead tree. So over the last 6 years, we started with focusing on our trees and getting those in the ground because we knew those would take the longest to produce. So over the last little bit, we've planted over 40 trees on our property. Most of them are bearing fruit now, which is exciting. In another month here, I should have blossoms everywhere and fruit starting to set. Then after that, we moved on to our garden beds, getting those in place. We still have a few gardens we're working on, but we have a lot of garden space that's producing currently. And now that we have both of those things up, comes the fun part of getting to add pretty flowers and making the property look a little bit nicer. So it's been kind of fun to watch that growth over the last 6 years. So I'll give you a quick tour. If you would like to come over and get a closer look and ask questions, we love sharing. And if you want any cuttings from our trees, we're more than willing to share that as well. So just let us know if you want to come by. So I'm going to start in our front yard. This is our passion vine we just put in. You can see they put off beautiful kind of fuchsia flowers, and then they'll get fruit on them like this down here. So it's fun, kind of a fun, easy tropical. They grow really well. This will eventually cover this entire trellis. Right now it's just small, it's very young. Over here we have our tropical area. So this is our mango tree. You can see it has blossoms all over on it. And by the end of summer, it will have huge grapefruit sized mangoes on it. And they're the creamiest, smoothest things I've ever eaten. This is our guava here. It's laden with guavas. See if I can get in here so you can actually see a few of them. There's a couple of them right there. And those will be ready here in another month or so. And we probably got, I don't know, probably 50 guavas on this thing. We have all of your standard things like peaches, plums, apricots, but then all of our weird tropics as well. Over here is the lavender that Brenda was talking about last night. I have 4 different varieties of lavender on the property, and they pretty much bloom year round, so I always have some cut and on my counter. My kids love just going by and touching it because it'll make the whole yard smell like lavender after playing with it a little bit. And those are all in pots. I had a few that were in the ground. You can see one that's left over there. Those are just ones that came up voluntarily and I kind of let them go. I've put some of those in pots and hopefully we'll have some to offer everyone really soon here. This is our papaya tree. It's about a year old. A year ago we put some seeds in the ground and now we have this beautiful tree, and if you look close you can see there is fruit all the way up it. So we should get a nice crop this year. This is our plum here. We have another mango over here, which again you can see has blossoms all over on it. So that's something we're very excited about. We'll move back to the garden area now. This tomato plant here came up on its own, which I am always more than happy to support that. You can see there are tomatoes all over on it. We need to come out and do some picking. I found that when they come up on their own like this, they generally do better than sometimes the places I pick. They tend to pick places where they will really thrive. This is a persimmon tree over here. We have a fruiting cactus over here. We'll move into the backyard to the actual garden. So this is my garden space. We have 2 large garden beds, and then we have another garden bed that we're putting in just past that. Over on this side, we've got another mango down there. These are all papaya, different varieties of papaya, and that's an avocado back there. But in my garden this year, we have lots of carrots, we have bell peppers, we have bulbs of garlic that are in, lots of lettuce. I have jalapenos, chard. My artichokes over here are getting ready to produce. They'll send up a shoot pretty soon with artichokes all over them, and we generally get dozens of artichokes each year. I have some leeks over here. I've had peas. They're getting down to the last of them now. I've got a few I'm letting go to seed so that I've got some seeds for next year. I've got some green onions over here, and they kind of multiply over the years, so I always have green onions out here. I just slowly kind of thin them out and then more grow, and it's been really nice to just have those all the time. And then I'll walk you down here. I'm getting ready to clean up this garden bed and plant a few other things. I usually have some basil in here, but basil in the wintertime dies off. I'll get more back. In another month or two, I should start seeing some of it come up. You see I've got some tomato plants down there at the end that don't look real great. I found this is not a really good spot for tomatoes, so I probably won't put them back here in this space again. But I'll show you the kids' garden where their tomatoes really went crazy this year. We have bananas over here. This banana right here is getting ready to flower. You can see that little bit of red color in there and how that leaf looks different from the others. In another few weeks here, it's going to send out a huge flower, and then that will have bananas all over above it. We've got some herbs over here. Right here I've got another passion vine. This one here ends up more of a purple color, not that fuchsia like we saw out front. This passion vine is a year old. We had another one somewhere else in the yard, and we just took a little cutting from that and stuck it in the ground. And a year later, we have this huge, beautiful vine. And in a few more weeks, we should have flowers all over on it. I don't know that we'll get fruit off of it this year because it's so young, but next year we should get fruit. Over here we have our grapevines. Again, about 2 years ago, we took a cutting from one of the grapevines that we had, and we just stuck the twig in the ground, and now we've got full stalks. Grapes are a 3-year commitment, so we're on year 2 of that. By next year, we'll have 4 canes coming off of each of these. You can see the starts of that where we're prepping for next year. We'll have 4 canes that'll come off, and each of those canes could get up to 10 bunches of grapes. So you can see we've got a lot of them along here, and eventually we should have a lot of grapes. And there's our most mature one over here, but we just transplanted it, so we probably won't get anything this year. And then we have a lot of stuff still under construction. We've got some more garden beds we're putting in here, so hopefully those will be in really soon. Over on this side we have the kids' garden. It's about ready to be cleaned up. We haven't been harvesting tomatoes the last few days, so I've got a lot on the plant, but you can see how crazy this plant went this year. They obviously really like this spot. And I found that the biggest things I've learned in all of this as we've been doing our gardening is when we started our other house, our garden did okay, and I learned quite a bit, but I didn't feel like I was consistent with having a good crop for us to eat all the time. But what I learned here as we moved into this house and we started focusing on trees and learning about the care for them, we learned more about watering, which is really crucial here to make sure that you have the right watering for what you're planting and that it's consistent. And the second thing we learned about was microclimates. And that was something I didn't know anything about before we started working with all of these exotic trees. but I feel that that has helped my garden because I have a better understanding of what things need to grow where and why a certain amount of sun is better for certain things. You can see my peas on this side got much taller than just a few feet away. Suddenly we're down to little tiny short peas, but these ones get more sun than these do, and so they just do better. And I found that my artichokes in the back do really, really well because they get heat from that wall and they really like that, and so they'll grow really big and strong, where other things I plant back there will burn up very quickly because it's just too much heat for them. So learning about microclimates I think is really key to gardening. And then secondly, making sure that you have a good watering system in to where everything gets watered thoroughly. Really quick here, I'll show you my apple trees. These apple trees are espaliered, and because of that they take up very, very little space. So even if you have a yard where you don't have a lot of room, you'll see my apple trees are only as big as this post. They take up space side to side, but as far as front to back, you could place these along a wall and have them take up very little space. Apples do really well with this. Figs would also do well. There's lots of different trees that don't have a problem with this, and they will actually produce really well because they get a lot of sunlight and good airflow, and it can make a really pretty hedge if you want to do that, or fence line, or like I said, if you just have a really small space, it won't take up much space in your yard. So there's lots more I could show you, but like I said, if you want to come take a tour, just let me know anytime. I'd be happy to walk you around the garden and show you everything. And thanks for walking along with me.